there is a community doesn't happen in a vacuum. There has to be someone or something that holds it together, and education is a perfect place for that. You start with those ideas that you want to share and you care about. We're all finding something in common, and somebody has to share those things, right? If no one shares them, there is no community. There is nothing that holds that sense of belonging there. Peace can come from anywhere, really. We just have to be mindfully looking for it. Someone said the most dangerous thing we can do in America is talk to our neighbors. Obviously the author is joking about that, but that's what happens. We just tend to close our doors because we want to enjoy our own peace, but what we're doing is we're closing the door to that internal peace as well. Because for me, there is peace when there are people coming together. Where do I find peace? I think peace, we do not have to go to a place. I believe it's everywhere. You just have to be mindful and look for it. Because once you look for it, you will find it. That's what I believe. That could be obviously out in nature, or it could be just reading something beautiful. Unite. All I'm asking is to unite the colors of the earth with those of the sky. You don't have to blend in order to survive. For even the colors of the gleamy rainbow never quite blend, but together in peace, vividly and proudly, they all stand. Enlightenment from nature. The world is full of lessons. Everywhere you look, you see a teacher. And everything you hear speaks a message. And whatever you touch shares its secret. Nature gives wisdom to those who listen. Right now, as the stream flows and the rocks roll through the pure water, there is a calming sound that teaches peace within our hearts. Most of my poems have a narrative aspect to it because of course, that's how I grew up. I grew up with stories. So when I started writing poetry, it was very natural for me to continue in that fashion. So there was every page, every poem has a story to it. Something has to do with home or with family or community or war, as is the case with my first book. Most of that is about the struggles that my family and I experienced, and the only way I could relate that and maybe even code those messages was through poetry. People who knew the context would understand what I was talking about. People who did not know the context may not understand, and that was because obviously if the Serbian regime, caught those poems and me talking about my pride as someone who wanted to do things for his country, that would be controversial, and I'm not sure what would happen. So I tried to code a lot of those messages. And of course, when you translate them into English, a lot of that is lost as well. So I would do a poetry reading here, and people say, well, can you give us the background story? So every poetry, which is a page, probably has about 5 pages of background story. For me, community obviously doesn't mean Albanian community, because I am an Albanian. Community is anyone that I can connect with on a personal level, share something together. It could be a tradition, could be faith, could be shared interests, and all of that. Anyone can be my community. Well, I think just realizing that at the end of the day, we're all human beings and our national ethnic identities are all social creations. We made them up for a reason. They worked for a while maybe, not anymore. They're only dividing us. So I think just realizing that we all come from one source. We all came from one place. We're all family at the end of the day. Those ethnic, and nationalist lines of division, they're not doing us any good. And I feel like once we're able to push that aside and realize that you and I are not very different from each other, there's so many more reasons for us to get together and work together and then argue about meaningless things. Essentially, that's how nationalism works. We argue about things that we had nothing to do with.